Take seat. Find the seat. Please take seat. Take seat. Yeah.
Where can people find you?
It's in Telegram group.
Okay. Is it ETHSydney's?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's got people asking me to say it's
Okay. Yeah. I shared the link.
yeah, I think it's on YouTube as well. Or not?
No.
No, I'll tell it. That's what I
This was supposed to go with all the onboarded press. So I think you can kind of, attribute some of the success to this event coming up around now. I don't know. But yeah, before we start, I just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. First, Helix Collective for hosting us at this amazing venue. You guys should definitely come and co-work here if you are in the Web3 space. Shout out to Jiva for hosting us. Yeah, next, ETHSydney, Global for sponsoring and supporting the community. Sigma Prime for being one of our keynote speakers. I'm going to intro her, who's going to be starting off the night, and then also WalletX, who are an amazing Wallet okay, who are an amazing exchange. They have partnered with Hyperliquid, Pump.Fund, StockX for access to tokenized stocks for the first time. These guys are seamless with multi-chain swaps as well, and so you guys should definitely check them out. There are posters somewhere. I will double check them. Posters over there with a trading competition coming up. So if you guys trade these, you definitely should check them out because there's a 100K prize pool. You guys can get it on. Yeah, okay. My name is Harry, by the way. I'm one of your 3 MCs, along with Sunil and with Daniel, who you guys will meet later. Yeah, actually, let me get Daniel up right now to give a bit of a talk.
GM. And by the way, in this forum we know that GM stands for the good day made, not for other things. So we have a jam-packed night, so I won't be long. It's really exciting to commemorate together the birthday for Ethereum Genesis block, especially looking back how many journeys we've been through together. Many of the faces here are familiar and some coming new, so always happy. I actually saw the other day Sassal was tweeting that the first ever Ethereum conference that he joined was at EdCon 2019 in Sydney, which we applied a lot of pressure on the team back then in Toronto 2018 to bring them, which Hockey actually sent me there. So I think that it's all, nurturing together a good community, and Australia is always punching above its weight. So super excited. And yeah, I hope that this will be the first day of the next decade and that we'll get back here in Helix or elsewhere for the 20th anniversary in some 10 years. Cool. pass it on.
So we are going to start off with some ecosystem updates before we get into a debate kind of on if ETH is here to stay. We've got one of the ETH KOLs, Sasal, as well as Asol Maxi, Sal here to debate, and then we're finishing off with some startup pitches, so it's going to be a pretty jam-packed night. I am going to start off by introing Kurt from Sigma Prime, who is a security assessments manager there. He's going to be like an amazing guest speaker tonight to start from. Where is he? Okay.
Beautiful. So, I don't know how many of you in this room are engineers here, but if you've ever looked at 500k lines of code and you've tried to decide where do I actually start when you're in this behemoth of a code base, well, I was in that situation kind of recently with Reth, and I decided to come up with this systematic approach that I could teach you all how do we actually deal with this. So there's a lot of problems with code bases this side. Ethereum is actually complicated as hell. For those of you who don't know, Reth is actually just the execution layer now. That means it just executes blocks, transactions, and everything that. And the amount of fault choice it has to do was significantly reduced. However, that's still 500,000 lines of code. Very complicated. And to make matters worse is if you mess up, there are some seriously high stakes. Like if you have a bug in here, there's, I don't know how many hundreds of billions of dollars are on it now, but a lot of billions of dollars, and if you miss bugs, someone's going to exploit this and steal your hundreds of billions of dollars. So, this is a guide to reviewing core blockchains. This is going to teach you how to solve this problem, and I'm going to do that in a few phases. The first one, obviously, one-time thing. Set up your environment, make sure you've got a good idea going, make sure you know actually what you're doing, how to navigate a code base. After that, you're going to want to understand the code. As I said, these things are complicated. There's no way you can actually find a bug if you don't know what the program is doing. So you have to understand it in its entirety. Next up, threat modeling. That's part of phase one. Once you understand what it's doing, you can start to think about what bugs are going to occur, how do you prevent them, and all that sort of jazz. Next up, automated tools. Automated tools are fun. They make your life easy. I would say be lazy, but this isn't being lazy, this is being efficient. Guys, efficient, not lazy. And then the manual code review. This is what I do for my day. This is how I like to spend my time. I read through line by line. I understand what it's doing, find bugs. And that's actually a really complicated process, and I'll give you some methodologies to help you apply those. Next up, testing. Testing is fun. Testing is a lot of fun. Yeah, definitely. And finally, reporting, because you've got to make it all readable, presentable, or else no one will know what you've found, and they'll ignore it and think you're a fool. So, step one, real quick, set up your environment, get yourself a good ID, make sure you get the right plugins, use these little navigation tools, help you get around the code base, help you understand what you're doing, then set up some documentation early. I don't know about you, but if you're going to be doing a review for 1 to 2 months, you should get some friends and do it with these guys. You don't want to be doing it by yourself. You can't read 500,000 lines of code just as one person. You need to know. So, how do you share your note-taking? How do you share ideas? How do you do all of this? Very important. You need to set up some systems early. I recommend shared pages like Notions, Google Docs, collaborative PRs, all these sorts of jazz. And then lastly, lock in a target commit. If the code is changing under you, you're going to get lost, man. Yeah? You're going to get very, very lost. So you really need it to be set in there, setting stuff. Now, there's kind of 3 or 4 main tasks that I like to do when understanding the architecture. First up, what are the components? What's in there? What is it doing? Next up, how do these components talk to each other? What are they doing? How are they communicating? And then finally, map this to code. You've got a high-level idea of what is happening in terms of the processes, but at the end of the day, we're trying to find bugs in the code. So you need to connect the documentation or the high-level understanding into the code. So, what is Reth architecture? These are the main components in Reth. I've done a little bit of this knowledge base for you. We've got, first up, P2P networking. So Reth used to share blocks and everything, but now it's just transactions. You send a transaction to one node, this transaction has to get all the way around. They've got this whole networking structure. P2P, complicated beast. there's one sentence to explain what it does. Enjoy it. That's all I'm going to give you. Next up, the engine API. As many of you know, we had this whole proof of stake thing and a merge thing, and now we split out a consensus layer from the execution layer here. They use the engine API to communicate. This is your execution layer kind of whipping your, so your consensus layer whipping your execution layer into line. And it's kind of like, do this block, make this fork choice, yada, yada, yada. That is what your consensus layer is doing in there. And the execution layer, via its RPC, receives all these instructions, and if things are happy, things are nice, it'll process them and go, hey, that was a good block, man, thanks. Next up, state transition. This is where your execution layer is actually processing block. So a block comes in, you go, hey, what about the parent? Hey, you've got too many transactions, that's going to be more than a gas limit. Any of those sorts of things. This happens in your state transition. Lastly, well, not lastly at all, there's a whole bunch of components that I didn't even put on the slide because short presentation. EVM. This is what processes transactions, specifically transactions. It won't process the whole block. Inside each individual transaction, set up like a little virtual machine instance. If it is your like own isolated computer, you'll iterate through the transactions on the smart contract, all of that jazz. Have some fun in there. So, I've done two little links here. The next part I want to talk about is linking all the pieces together. So the transaction link, first of all, comes in by your P2P network. That's how someone's going to gossip a little transaction to you. I wanted to send some money to Sardin. I actually spent it already before, but I won't tell him this. I'm going to gossip this one to him. It's going to arrive in the P2P network. Next up, it will go into the mempool, and that's when my ref client is going to go, hang on, Kev, you already sent that. You can't send that again. It's going to do a little bit of validation, and it'll send it onto a block builder. Some nice fellow out there is going to make my transaction into a block, process it, and then it's on the blockchain forever. Similarly, blocks, engine API. This is where consensus layer goes, bam, throws you out a little payload, execution payload, you block. Then we're going to execute it by the state transition, do a few nice validations, and finally into the EVM. And once the EVM's done, it's going to chuck you a bunch of stuff in your database. So, threat modeling. What can we actually do with these things? P2P network. You've got a whole bunch of untrusted connections. Anyone's out there in the internet, they can connect to you. They can be a pair. They can talk to you. That's important. State transition. We got a whole bunch of consensus problems. What happens if Reth does something? Reth does something else. What happens if you don't validate a transaction? What happens if you don't check the parent block? A whole bunch of naughty edge cases can go in there that we need to check. Engine API, this is very important. If I pretend to be your consensus layer and I send you out some naughty blocks and you process them, well, that's a link. You should have secured up your connection. Cool. So that's phase one. We haven't even started reviewing the code. That's all we're doing there. Now, code review. As I mentioned, automated tools, they're fast, they're healthy. They'll be about 10-15% of your time, and they can run really quickly. They can find a lot of low-hanging fruit. They're great. Next up, 80% of your time is going to go into manual code. Manual code review is where you actually think for yourself, apply some logic, find some bugs. Don't be lazy, don't be a script kiddie, do it yourself. So, prioritization. You can't read all of these lines of the code. As I said, there's too many, too big, too scary. So what you want to do is prioritize, and that takes a little bit of what I'm going to call experience to know which sections are going to have the saucy bugs, which sections of the code base are going to have these high consensus critical bugs, and then which we don't really care about. Configuration, you can have some naughty bugs in there, and they'll be a pain, but they're probably not going to come up too often. Monitoring, yeah, you want to do it right, but it's not so important. These other consensus critical bugs, that's where you want to do. Anything that's network facing, outside, don't trust other people, everyone else is evil, they're evil, I get you, they'll do bad things. So, this is the manual view section. Now, I've got this whole code, I've decided where I want it to start, and how do I actually do it? I've kind of broken it up into two main approaches. One of them I'm going to call bottom up. That's how to start with a small, tiny little piece of code that you can find and learn that. Then learn another tiny little piece of code. And learn another tiny little piece of code. And once you've got all those pieces, combine them into a little block. And then once you've got a few of these little blocks, combine them together into a bigger block. And as you can see, as you go through the review, your understanding, it builds, it gets bigger. And you can eventually understand the whole thing without being scared, without being overwhelmed. It's actually a really good methodology for learning anything that's feeling scary. Start off with little pieces, build them all together, and you'll understand it. The other approach is chaos. And it's absolute chaos out there. The other approach is top-down. So start off with where an attacker can actually enter your protocol. Just follow it. Follow it everywhere. Every branch in the code, every loop, everything. You just follow it anywhere it could go. And anytime you're like, hang on, we haven't checked this, and we're here, that's a bug. It is definitely for the more experienced, but at the same time, it's a lot more fun. So if you're just doing this as a hobby, you can do the top down. I'll give you permission. So this is most of it. There's some handy tips, some tricks that I've put up on the screen. I'm not going to read them all out for you, but hopefully you'll be able to follow along. So this table kind of explains pros and cons of both. Complexity, as I said, top down, overwhelming, scary. Foundation, the bottom up, it kind of makes you learn everything. It's a good way to do that. It's a lot more systematic. It's a bit nicer. However, you don't really follow where attackers actually get into the system. You'll often find bugs and like, oh, that is the worst bug I've ever seen. And like, oh, it's never called in the code base. That was a waste of time. So the top down, make sure you can actually get that bug, make sure it's a genuine bug, and it's nice. Focus on reachable paths. There's a lot of shit to do, so just do what's actually important. Don't worry about the stuff that's not important. The learning curve is definitely way easier on little pieces, easy to learn. Now, I have mentioned threat modeling at the beginning, but threat modeling is not something you want to just do at the beginning. You should be thinking about attack vectors the entire way through the process. There's attack vectors that you would never have thought of at the beginning of the review, that after you understand one of these components or another component and how they connect, then there's a whole bunch of new attack vectors that are going to come out. So you kind of want to do this threat modeling over and over again. Stop, take half an hour, write down as many potential attack vectors as you can and go, oh damn, yeah, these will be some pretty saucy bugs if I can find these. Then once you've got a good list, you can go back into the code and like tick them off. Are these things being checked, or are these things genuine bugs? Who knows? Maybe you'll find a critical bug in Reth and yourself, I think it's something like $100,000 or something to find a critical bug in. Nice. You want to write down all your notes. You are working in a team. Please write down everything. These could be things like entry points, like how do you actually get into a component from another component. These will help your friends when they come along and they're like, oh, what's this component do? And you're like, well, it enters here. And they're like, oh, thanks man, appreciate that. These are things like what type of authorization, what are the attack vectors, what are the different threat actors, and all of that jazz. And then, of course, issues. I don't know about you, but I got the memory of a goldfish. If I find a bug, I need to write it down straight away, or I'm going to forget it, and then I'll come back a few weeks later and someone will have exploited it. And I'm like, I did find that, and I just forgot to write it down. So, write down everything. Fuzzing testing, there's edge cases, and there's integration testing. So fuzz testing, I think, is going to get you some really good time for bugs. Is that a measure? Is that a ratio? Yeah. Time to bugs. Fuzz testing is very efficient. It explores a lot of the code paths. It puts in dumb inputs, it puts in chaos inputs, and it also puts in some pretty intelligent inputs. So fuzz testing will go all through the code and find you a whole bunch of nice things. Love it. Edge case testing, it actually takes a bit of time, not too much, but you do want to check all these edge cases. Anyone who's a software engineer knows about edge case testing. You could do it. But as a security reviewer, it might not be the time that you get first when you're doing that review. Lastly, integration testing. This actually takes a fair bit of time to set up. Maybe it's been nice and developers have had it for you, and they've got the whole network and some test nets running for you, and you can just kind of point some things at them and shoot, and they won't mind if you break their test nets. But it takes a lot of time to set up, and if you're short on time, the other two are definitely going to get you a bit more value for money out there. Judging severity. You found a bug. How serious is it? Well, if it's going to cause consensus failure, network hole, allow you to steal a little bit of money, everyone likes stealing money, then it's going to be hard. Medium, light things, yeah, okay, it's affected performance, it's not so good. Low, well, I don't know. We don't care too much. It's something that we should have just to kind of protect us in the future. But no, seriously. Likelihood, can it be reached? As I talked about this top-down flow, do we actually reach this part? Yes, if so, then it's hard. If it's harder to reach, medium, there's people who are restricted, medium. Nice. Don't forget to spend time on documentation. Audit takes a long time. It takes time to write up bugs, and if your clients don't know what you're saying, then there's no point in writing it up. You need to write it up so that anyone can understand it. Beautiful. And if you're interested, this is a blog post I wrote up, very similar to this talk, and it will allow you to read all of this talk in far more detail than I couldn't cover here.
I'm not sure.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, so next up we have Waki, who is a legendary smart contract desk. She's going to come give us a quick talk.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you here. It's been 10 years. I was originally a computer geek, working in banking and finance, and then Ethereum launched, and I couldn't believe how wonderful it was, and that it provided you the ability as a programmer to run programs that can run forever, until the end of time, potentially. And I worked out that it was humanity's best chance of a fairer world, like financial sovereignty and providing trust. And so I set out to create mind viruses. And I did that on Ethereum Stack Exchange, so I was number 2. I did the work for 1 year. I'm still number 3 now. And then GitHub, and I ran lots of workshops in Sydney, because early on when I was working with another company, the limitations we had was the number of developers or people who could understand the situation. So we have now, after 10 years, got to a stage where we have proven technology. All the technical bits have been solved. They have got tweaks to make things better. They've got space to extend slots to create more space for like the layer 2s. So 10 years ago we had proof of work, we had smart contracts, and now after 10 years we've had so many hacks. And the hacks like started with a DAO, 70 mil of 150 mil. Most recently was Bybit, 1.5 billion or something like that. And that was done by hijacking a developer who had access to the website and then adjusting the code there to target Bybit. And then you had like accidental bugs like the parity multi-sig, where today I looked at it, it's $1.1 billion. So the parity people must be, so how can you sleep? So many painful things along the way. Some beautiful things we have worked out, like ERC20, ERC721, ERC1155. These are beautiful primitives. Like if you think about your Opal card, right? Your Opal card is like a ERC721. And you can load it with ERC20s. When you put cash in, you get your points, and then you spend it. So when working in banking and finance, you get accounts, you get transactions, you get all these things. And ERC20, 721, 1155, it accounts for the basic primitives of all these systems, including like games. So we've worked out a lot of the technical bits to move forward. Big things for scaling. Layer 1, layer 2 provides unlimited scalability, almost. So don't know what is there left to worry about. Governance. Recently, in the last 3 months, I've been spending time working out people. And if you are males in a relationship, I may have some help, but along the way I picked up some hints. But 2017 I was working with a business, and the CTO stole the money from a paper wallet deposited in a safety deposit box. And how they did it was the CTO and CEO went to check the deposit box, and the forms were submitted where they agreed for 2 signatures, but the CTO put in 1 signature. And then later on went and took the money. Because they thought they were entitled to 30% of the business instead of the 10% that was documented. And then they went on and did another 2 dodgy things with another 2 crypto businesses. So these people are everywhere, and some of them can be long-term. Ethereum, technically, I think a lot of the issues have been solved. There's a lot of fine-tuning, but Ethereum has been here for 10 years. It's going to be here for another 10 years, maybe 100 years, maybe 1,000 years, maybe 1,000,000 years, or maybe an archive until the end of time. But yeah, it's, I think, the governance that needs to be looked at, and it's for the good people to be super vigilant, because when you have your guards down, then these chaos monkeys, these people who think, I don't know, there's a low trust environment that they grow up in, I think. It might be mummy issues. It might be genetic, I don't know. I'm working it out. But yeah, so be vigilant. We've got a beautiful Ethereum ecosystem, 10 years now, and hopefully it goes on for a long, long time. I think it's our best bet at a fairer future. And thank you for all the people which I planted mind viruses in, like Nick Edison. And many of you. Thank you.
Okay, great. So next up we have Jeff Lambert, who was an early stage Ethereum contributor. He's going to come up and give us his talk.
Hi everyone, I'm Jeff. My story is I was an early enthusiast about Bitcoin in the early days, and I was a software developer, and when Ethereum came along I started getting interested, and as a developer naturally a blockchain that you can write code in is much more interesting than Bitcoin. So I started going along to Locky's workshops. They're an invaluable resource. A lot of us learned a lot of things there and heard a lot of interesting stories about Locky's exploits in the early days. But it was just a really useful way of learning about Ethereum, how to code and all the things you've got to watch out for. And the thing I got interested in was privacy technology. Started learning about zero-knowledge proofs and ended up working with the Ethereum Foundation, or ESE, which is Ethereum Foundation's privacy research, if you like. Worked with PSE for about 4 years, and in that time I worked on protocols like Semaphore, which is like the framework behind WorldCoin and a lot of other things. You can build a tornado cache with Semaphore, you can build a voting system, you can build privacy and identity platforms, all sorts of things. So got involved a bit in the identity, private identity area. Worked on trusted setups a lot. We came up with a few trusted setup platforms, and we helped run the KCG ceremony, and the blogs came out a couple of years ago. Hopefully you all contributed to that. 140,000 contributors to that, so pretty well distributed. Yeah, it's a great experience working with DSE. And the thing I like about privacy technology is this ZK technology is just amazing that you can generate a distributed, decentralized proof of some fact in the real world and never reveal the private information behind that proof. So it's a really cool thing that we have in our toolset. But just privacy, decentralized privacy is way better than like fiat privacy. Now you think about things like when you sign up to a new website, the company gives you that long list of things and they promise they're going to keep your data private, and I'm sure you all read through all those terms and conditions and click the button at the bottom. But it's kind of a pretty weak promise, isn't it? Because next minute you hear there's been some hack of their data, and like a couple of weeks ago we heard about the Qantas data, and millions of people had their personal details leaked. And that just shows you how weak the privacy is in the fiat world. And do the same thing with zero-knowledge proofs. To break a zero-knowledge proof, you need the computing power in the world times 1,000,000, and it's much, much stronger, and that's the way we should be doing things. Obviously, the future for protecting our data and for corporations to handle our data. And side issue, why are we still accepting the corporation's terms and conditions? Why don't we, the user, say, these are my terms and conditions, if you're going to handle my data, if you're willing to accept those terms and conditions, we can do business. And, we could do all that, we can build it. So that's the future. Yeah, privacy is normal, privacy is important. In the fiat world, we expect it with our everyday conditions. We expect our corporations to be protecting our data. And we expect our bank accounts to be private and only released to the people that we are willing to. So we need that in the blockchain world as well. And Ethereum's a great place to put that on, because you can prove zero-knowledge proof in a smart contract very easily, and it's getting easier all the time, and it's just very, gives us all sorts of opportunities to build things. Identity, private identity, so that we can guarantee that an individual is a human, but still keep their identity private. Make sure they're not, voting twice or whatever the situation is. So we can build all that. We've got the tools. It needs to be easier, but it's heading in that direction. So it's all very exciting. Ethereum's 10 years old, but I've worked with the core developers here and there, and they are focused on, the North Star is like building a platform that can survive World War III. So hopefully we're not going to see it proved in the near future, but you never know. So, but anyhow, it's here for the long term. So very exciting, and it'll be exciting to see what comes up in the future.
Okay, so our last speaker before we head to our debate is Nick Addison, who is a smart contract educator.
Hello. I might counter Docky a little bit. So my talk is about some of the innovations which have happened over the Ethereum improvements which have happened, and what I'm doing to leverage those. So I'm a blockchain or smart contract developer at Origin Protocol. One of our main products is a liquid staking token. So that's basically you put in ETH, and then we run the validators, and then you get the yield from running that ETH. So it's done in a decentralized way. So one of the problems we have is our smart contracts are on the execution layer, as we talked about before, but the validators are down on the consensus layer, on the beacon chain. So how do you know what those balances are? So that's a problem most liquid staking tokens have. Most of them solve it by having oracles. So for example, Lido has an oracle where they have 9 organisations which come together on a daily basis through their finalisation process and agree this is the total balance of all their thousands and thousands of validators. Our current method doesn't use an oracle. It sort of uses sort of like a probable accounting and has sort of it's like safety triggers if it can't quite work out what's going on, but that's not quite good enough. So we have been working on creating, or what I've been working on, is creating proofs, Merkle proofs of the beacon chain data to bring up into the execution layer. So that was only possible because it was released last year, EIP 4788, which put the beacon block root on the execution layer. So that's our anchor. So I've only got 3 minutes, so I can't explain what a Merkle tree is, but it's this big binary tree structure. And then if you've got access to any data inside that tree, you can basically construct a proof, which is basically a string of data, which is relatively small to prove that yes, that piece of data exists. So you can get the idea that we can do that for our validators. And then one of the other changes from released earlier this year in the Petra release is validators can now run up to 2048 ETH, so instead of just 32. So we've got currently over 1,000 validators. So we can get down to less than 20, which then means we can construct these proofs becomes much cheaper. It's a little bit more complicated than just summing up the validator balances. There's things like you've got to keep track of deposits. So we've got proofs on that. But yeah, just to gives you an example of some of the improvements and the innovations which are happening and what protocols like Origin is using to leverage those.
Okay, great. I think now we are going to have our debate, which all of the people here for Alpha came for. So we have Anthony Sassano on each side and Metacell on Sol's side, and it is moderated by Daniel. Where's Daniel? Okay, Daniel's over there. Let's do it.
It's YouTube live. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
Are you able to rotate?
Testing.
You're not able to rotate?
I don't know how to. Maybe it's because of I didn't install the app.
Oh, here. This one? No?
No, it's.
guys, this is actually, it's not going to be a boring panel, okay? Okay, so we have a few very contentious and spicy things to resolve here tonight. Now, yeah, usually panels are basically people talking about something and then agreeing with each other. Nobody remembers what they spoke about, the audience doesn't remember do anything. But no, we have actually something very, very important. We all came here for the 10-year anniversary of Ethereum, but we'd be naive to think that Ethereum is the only thing that exists out there and that there is no competition. This is reality. Right? Now, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We need to have a bit of a sport to get fit, right? So what we're going to do now is step into Oxford-style debate where I'll share the statement that is for the two speakers to address. They will start by giving the arguments and counter-arguments relating to this statement. We have a little bit of a back and forth there. And then the interesting bit would be to ask them to switch positions and argue each other's counterpoints. Okay, so the statement goes like this. Is Ethereum the only legitimate smart contract platform, or does it have a legitimate competition? The emergence of Solana as key contender, as some say, Ethereum killer, certainly brought competition on mindshare, liquidity, application developments in general, right? So like that's the statement. Now, rock, paper, scissors, we'll start. Okay. Is that how we decide? Yeah, okay. Rock, paper, scissors. Yeah.
Maybe we just get it out the way. All right, let's go.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Oh.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Ooh, that was good delay.
Rock, paper.
That was Ethereum speed.
It's a good one. I'll give you that.
Who's scoring? That's 1 point.
Okay, well, first of all, I just wanted to say happy birthday to Ethereum. That's why we're all here. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this. So, my argument against my opening kind of argument here is Solana has tried to be half a gangster, and that's why it won't be successful long term. And I'll explain why. So broadly speaking, in the crypto industry, there are two main things that a chain can be optimized for: settlement and execution. Ethereum Layer 1 is optimizing for settlement, and Solana is optimizing for execution. This is why these networks are not actually competing with each other. Instead, Solana is trying to compete with Ethereum's execution layers, which we know as Layer 2s and rollups. So inherently, because Ethereum's settlement layer design is designed to be a settlement layer, is less scalable than a design that is optimizing to be an execution layer. But we've already seen what happens when you try to go too fast and optimize for execution at Layer 1, as Solana has had multiple outages with extended downtime. Ethereum has had zero downtime, zero, in its 10 years of operation. Not even centralized services can boast that. In my view, the Ethereum network gives some of the best settlement assurances of any property rights system in history. To illustrate this point, the ETH that I hold on Ethereum Layer 1 is protected by over 10,000 node operators that are geographically distributed around the globe and consists of entities ranging from corporations to the home staker. On top of this, because Ethereum has both economic finality and penalties for node operator misbehavior, there is tens of billions of dollars at stake protecting my capital. Hundreds of billions now. I also have strong confidence that the network will not go offline, or some bug will lead to a loss of funds because Ethereum has prioritized client diversity. And all this isn't to say that Ethereum isn't competing on execution, it certainly is, but it does it via Layer 2s, which can tap into Ethereum's strong settlement guarantees. I believe that anyone who thinks that Solana is competing with Ethereum is simply wrong. Ethereum has no real competition. Meanwhile, Solana is being outcompeted by both the execution layers on top of Ethereum and other L1s such as Hyperliquid that opted to just be fully centralized. They went full gangster. Ethereum went full gangster by being all in on settlements, but I believe for Solana to have a chance of success as an execution layer long term, its best course of action is to just become a Layer 2 on Ethereum. Solana is half a gangster. It doesn't do settlement or execution well. It's simply stuck in the middle. All right.
Alright, so I don't know if you guys know me, but I'm Sal Samani, and I'm here to represent the Solana side. Now, everything that Sassel has mentioned is nothing new, right? Solana is fast, Solana is cheap, and it's what? Half gangster.
Half gangster.
Half gangster, right? Now, what does that even mean, right? Like, this is just talking like it's not technical. There's no reason to bring that up. Now, happy birthday to Ethereum, 10 years. Now, Solana is how old? Does anyone know? It's 5 years old. Alright? So 5 years old, it's still in beta. Hands up if you know that Solana is still in beta. Right? Fantastic. Right? What would you prefer? Would you prefer someone or something to be useless and very, very slow, or for it to fall over, to be fixed and to be repaired and to be back up again? Would you like to do transactions that are so slow that it's not even good enough to replace ETHPOS or any Swift settlement? Solana is the fastest chain, it's the cheapest chain, it's the dirtiest chain. We fuck around, we find out, and we make sure that we improve, and the client diversity is just around the corner. right? Fire dancer is coming. There's no need to laugh about it, right? No, you can laugh about it. Right, you can laugh about it, but the fact is, these things take time to build, right? Now, wait. Is it my turn still? So, Ethereum made by a 21-year-old, right? Remember, a 21-year-old, who do you trust? A 21-year-old who did not know, what were you doing when you were 21, right? And now he's 31, fantastic. It's still doing how many transactions per second? Now we have Toby, the founder of Solana, at the age of 35, with 14 years of experience working at Qualcomm, making the fastest phones in the lowest language possible to build a chain. Who do you trust? Just because you're first makes you go to the top, but you don't stay there.
Right, wow, okay.
I'm surprised I got clapped, so thank you.
Definitely hearing some strong arguments, yeah, from both sides. So this stage of the debate will be for each of the debaters to address the points raised by their counterpart. So, Sasa, over to you.
I don't actually disagree with much of what you said. I just don't think that it should be done as a layer 1. I think that layer 2 is actually more conductive to Solana's goals of being the most scalable chain and fastest and cheapest chain than as a layer 1. That has always been my issue with Solana. That's why I call it half gangster, because it tries to do what I think should be done at layer 2 at layer 1 and does it poorly.
But it's not a pizza sassy. You don't need layers and buildings on top of layers and stuff. If you have a layer, which is the ground level, that's fast enough, big enough, cheapest enough, who the hell needs Arbitrum and Optimism and Snuffleism and whatever else you've got there?
Why?
You don't need it.
Why are you allowed to use an analogy, but I can't call Solana half gangster?
You can.
Okay, so then you said before I couldn't, but now I
Yeah,
can.
but what does that mean?
Analogy-
You have to define it. A layer on pizzas?
I defined
That
it.
makes sense. Well, what does it define it?
You want?
Decentralization is the word you
No,
should be using versus decentralization. Solana and everything starts centralized and then it becomes decentralized. Solana has, the foundation has a lot of stake. That's public knowledge. Everyone can see that.
Fair, but we're going to take turns here.
Yeah, we're supposed to take turns. I'll define it. I was limited in time for my opening remarks, so I'll define half gangster. It comes from a show, Peaky Blinders, I believe. Basically, and it's not just from that show, it's basically the notion that you're either all in or you're not on a certain thing. So, yeah, I think it's done. I love it. My point was that Ethereum has gone all in on being a settlement layer, all in on decentralization. That's what it's optimized for. That is why you can make your points about it being not scalable, so on and so off. That's true. Like, no one's denying that. No one's ever said that Ethereum layer 1 is super scalable, is cheap. Like, no one's ever claimed that. Anyone who is stupid. Like, honestly, like, I would never claim that. And then I said that Solana didn't go all in on being the best execution layer because it's tried to sit in the middle. It's tried to kind of do decentralization with various different things. And then it got outcompeted, or at least in some verticals, it's been outcompeted by more centralized platforms like Hyperliquid. The purpose platforms on Solana do no volume compared to what Hyperliquid is doing. And I think that's a design kind of point there. So then I brought it back when I said that because Ethereum has that layered architecture, whether you think it's the right way to go or not, the point is that Ethereum gets to be the most decentralized settlement layer in the world and gets to be what it wants to be, and then it can still have its cake as well by having the execution layers sit on top as layer 2s. And yes, there are trade-offs here. There are reasons to not like this. Interoperability is a big one, right? Bridging, all that sort of stuff. You know, we're not fans of that. But those things, again, to your point about things breaking and then we're fixing them, we do that too. You know, just because Ethereum has had 100% uptime doesn't mean that things haven't broken and things didn't need to be fixed. We do that too. Also, I wanted to address one point. The point of someone's age and experience, I'm sorry, like that's bullshit. Because I know lots of old people who are just like not computer savvy at all, but then I know lots of young people that aren't computer savvy either. Or I know lots of old people that are computer savvy. And I don't think age is actually that relevant here. I'm a strong believer that age shouldn't be relevant in any discussion. And I think Vitalik is genuinely a genius, and that's why he was able to do what he did. At 21, I wish I was doing what he was doing instead of fucking around in Macca's.
All right, all right.
No, so let's work backwards.
You've met us a long time.
So let's work backwards from there. Of course, if you're a genius and the technology that you have at hand allows you to build Ethereum, that's what you will build. But 5 years ago, the technology changed. I used to teach virtualization. I used to teach Cisco and VMware and Microsoft. And I know a lot of stuff happens very fast. And I don't think Vitalik would have built Ethereum the way he did if he had done it when Solana came out. That's the first one. The second thing is, like the layers and the gangster, I guess I understand the analogy, but it's also related to centralization. When Vitalik built Ethereum, he would have, had a cabal of people that he worked with that he can distribute, just like Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin would have started off with one guy and then multiple people and more nodes coming online, right? Solana is doing the same, and I'm assuming Ethereum has done the same as well. You can't go to decentralization from the get-go. What are you going to do? Get a Raspberry Pi and go plant it in every city that has internet connection in the world? No. Cloud computing, about 10 years ago, really struggled with it. I was in the industry. I was helping write the syllabus for the first diploma of cloud computing in Australia, right? So data centers had this issue. It was like, oh my God, where's my data cable? Oh my God, it's going all the way to Singapore. It's going to Taiwan, right? It doesn't start decentralized, it becomes decentralized, right? And the same thing is happening with Solana. It has the stake, it had the validators, they are doing, we've got people in the room as well, they have some funds from the foundation and it will lead to decentralization, and that's where you want to get to, right? We have, for the record, for people that don't know, we have 1,000 validators that are online continuously. Is the reason why we can provide 400 milliseconds and 4,000 transactions per second, right? There's a term that you've probably all heard of because you're in crypto, and Solana, Toli's the founder, but we also have Raj, who's a marketing genius and like the best salesman you'll ever find. He came up with OPOS along with MERD, right? Only possible on Solana, right? And this is what it's all about. You can only do some things on Solana that you can't do on any other chain. It's the fastest database in the world with money attached. It's what Bitcoin, it's what Elon, it's what everyone needed, and Toli was able to provide. The current meta on Solana is all about internet capital market. Because you know what? When Toli first came up with it, after his 2 beers and a coffee, was about replacing NASDAQ, the fastest or the biggest stock market in the world. And the NASDAQ is what the North Star of Solana is. If you're not trying to replace that, what's the point even, right? With Solana Pay being a replacement to the open source version, to payments, right? Like I can say, the reason why I got into it was because my family struggled with bringing money, right? I can send any amount of money in less than a second to anywhere in the world as long as they have internet connection, right? No KYC, nothing else required. Can you do that on Ethereum? No. Why? Because you want a layer 2 to be able to do that, right? It's too slow, it costs too much, and I'll give you what, it will never be replaced. It is a good technology, but it is not the only one that is going to be the winner at the end.
It's a lot to reply to.
Okay.
I should have taken notes.
That's a good idea. I'm taking notes.
Okay.
So,
Am I replying or?
so this can go on for a long time. So we're gonna
I get it, sure.
we're gonna do we're gonna have some short time for Q&A.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
let's before that. Or, 1 minute, okay? 1 minute. You want to give me 1 minute? Okay.
Okay. You didn't address any of my points. I said that Solana would work better as a layer 2 on top of a layer 1, like a settlement layer 1, like Ethereum, for example. That is my main point. That's what I've been talking about the whole time, and you haven't really addressed that. You keep going on about how great Solana is, and that's fantastic. I didn't actually necessarily disagree with that, but you also just said a lot of things that are complete bullshit. It's not the fastest chain. It's just not. That's just true. It's as a fact. It is not the fastest chain today. It has not become more decentralized over time. I've been watching the Solana validator count for years. It's down from 2,500 to 1,000. There's a stake allocation program that you mentioned that the Solana Foundation does. The client diversity thing that you mentioned is absolutely bullshit. Solana doesn't have a spec, so all of the clients just feed off of each other. And because Solana optimizes for speed, each of the clients actually you can't have client diversity because the fastest client will be the one that everyone goes for in order to be most profitable because of the incentive mechanisms. The MEV situation on Solana is absolutely a cabal fest of bullshit. It is very toxic, very extractive. The biggest app on Solana, Pump.Fund, just died and just extracted $2+ billion from the ecosystem, just the founders, not to mention all the other money. Yeah, I could go on and on and on, but a lot of what you said, as I said, didn't actually address my point. I agreed with you that Solana works, as a fast, kind of cheap chain, but I said that it would be better as a layer 2, on top of Ethereum as a layer 1, on top of an existing settlement layer, because that's what I think a blockchain is. You're looking at it from a tech perspective. I'm looking at it from what a blockchain actually is and what the actual value prop is.
Okay, what I believe it is.
You want 1 minute or will you?
Yeah, I mean,
We have
I
another
wanted to
section.
expand the reply. I just roasted it.
Yeah, take 1 minute, but we're afterwards going to move to a part of the debate that is going to be very entertaining.
yeah, so the thing that he keeps harping on about is layer 2. It's like you want someone, the landlord, to make you build stuff on top of your planet, right? You've got this land, right? Ethereum, the guys that were early, they have all this ETH. I'm sure you've got a bag, at least a massive one. And it's like, dude, come on, man, just build on top of my one. Don't build your own one, just build on my one. What the heck, man? Dude, if there's a fast chain, it's the fun chain, right? There's no need for you to build on Ethereum. You just prove that every single time. You go, dude, don't worry about Ethereum, just build on ETH, build on L2. That's what you keep saying.
I'm saying it's better. Your goal of Solana being the fastest chain would be better served as a layer 2. It doesn't have to be on Ethereum. As a layer 2 construct, as a technology. I don't know how much you've looked into layer 2s, you're very about the tech, but as a technology, they are better. They are better, strictly better than a layer 1.
So I get roasted, but I don't have time to finish my section.
Yeah. No, you can finish. Yeah, go over time. Finish.
No, that was it. You are asking me to build on top of your platform instead of building on a platform that gives you 100% permissionless decentralization, right? No, you want me to build on Ethereum.
That also gives you 100% permissionless decentralization. Who's been stopping building on Ethereum?
Well, why is it so fragmented? Why is the
L2
L2
no one can control it.
Exactly, no one can control what the L2s do. That's why it's so shit.
Why do you want to control what they do?
No one has been successful on the L2s. They are shit. I mean, I've got it written here. L2s suck.
Base and
I don't need to say more than that.
Base and Arbitrum 1 have tons of usage.
Subsidized by?
By what?
You tell me.
You're the one making the accusation.
You're telling me people are on-ramping onto an L2 that they don't understand, that are centralized?
It's the same flow as the centralized exchange. You select base, you on-ramp. You select Solana, you on-ramp. It's the exact same.
So where does the liquidity come from? Where does the liquidity come from?
Users.
Which users? There's no users there. They're all on Pump.Fund.
No, they're not. They're not on Pump.Fund. Because you can look at the metrics on Dune Analytics and you can see Pump.Fund has gone down only since Trump launched his meme coin.
Right, and they all moved to Bonk.Fund and to meme.
No, I've looked at the metrics between Bonk and Fund. Bonk took the market share from Pump, but the actual market share of meme coins is been down only. You mean there's no users on base and up, and you're actually claiming that. That's your argument here.
Okay, guys, this is getting super interesting, but we want to move to another part. Okay, so maybe a couple of words of insight here that I think is important to bring from attempting to be more neutral part. Okay, so one, something that wasn't mentioned. Okay, so something that Metasub and I will mention in your favor.
Thank you.
Solana has earned its legitimacy. It survived multiple bear markets. It survived SPF. I mean, that on its own, right? It will probably survive even the insufferable Kyle Samani. So that one I give Solana. Like there is, even just by virtue of surviving through, pulling through, getting builders to carry on, even that is like, I think, not recognizing that is unfair. That's the very least.
I will recognize that, just for the record.
So there's 80,000 developers building on Solana, and there's about 40,000 programs for smart contracts.
There's 0 on Ethereum.
No, Solidity has about 25,000 stars on GitHub. I've done my research, and you have about 150,000 developers.
Guys, hold on. About
100,000 developers and no users, that's impressive.
No, we're talking about Ethereum. So you're getting confused with layer 2s
Come on,
and all
switch
the
the
other
mics
stuff.
off for a moment. Okay. About Ethereum. Ethereum, well, today we're celebrating moving to double-digit age, so officially entering adolescence. Now, something that personally I've observed, for example, DeFi summer, the dynamic between the Bitcoin maxis and the Ethereums was very resembling of today's dynamic between Ethereum maxis and Solana. Much of the reason, in my opinion, is that in this transition to adolescence that back in DeFi summer happened in the Bitcoin space, you basically saw all the maxis being very sour on the fact that all the new shit is happening where the kids are playing, which was Ethereum. And then, whether we like it or not, all of this casino tech 365 culture that happens in Solana, that's a lot of where today's Gen Z or whatnot happens. And Ethereum, in many respects, didn't kind of catch the wave in that same magnitude. So that's just like factually to recognize. Now, culturally, and this is something we'll get to in the after this session. Culturally, there's huge differences also in the ecosystems. So that's something important to recognize. We'll get to that in a moment, but for now, what we're going to do is essentially give Sassal and Metasal a chance to argue for Solana, Sassal, against Ethereum, and for Ethereum against Solana. Yeah, Metasal. I'll be more diligent about time here, so please.
I think the audience is entertained. Are you not entertained? All right, so I got this shirt from my brother because he doesn't know crypto, and he was like, "Oh, you are one of those crypto guys?" So he gave me one of these. Jesus. All right, but you know, in 2015, my son was born. He's watching. Hi, Zach. That's not part of my password either. So Ethereum, I could have been like, for the record, if I was on ETH, I would want to be known as an ETH card. Is that okay or no? All right.
It's usually used as an insult, but if you would insult yourself.
Well, if I'm an ETH guy right now, I'm an ETH card. So in 2015, my son was born, and if I wasn't too busy looking after him when he was born, I might have been reading the ETH white paper, and I might have been an ETH guy, right? But I think Ethereum came first, and Vitalik has done a fantastic job. It's on its way to probably $1 trillion, right, in market cap. It's the maturest. And maturity is not about age, it's about experience, right? If Vitalik and all the other developers like Boki and the others, like, if you have been developing and building, then you know what can go wrong, right? Like in programming, you know that there's edge cases, right? But you meet a program manager or a project manager and they're like, I don't know what the edge case could be, right? But I knew coming to Sydney it could rain or hail, right? Or it could be sunny. So I packed everything, a jacket and my runners, right? That's what experience comes from. And Ethereum has that advantage. One of the weaknesses for Solana is, the foundation has too much stake. They are essentially bribing people, right, to hold up validators, right? If they weren't there, maybe it wouldn't survive, right? How can one person just kill everything like SBF, right? FTX just murdered the whole chain and just took away everything, right? And once you're punished or once you are damaged by someone, the trust never comes back. If you cheat on your partner, she will never ever trust you 100%, right? And that's the same here with Solana. They have to live with it for the rest of the lifetime. The point I already made before, Solidity is a very, very popular language. It's easier, and you can easily find people to build programs or smart contracts for you. They are the most recognized developers in crypto, right? And they're fun people, right? I like the way Ethereum people dress. They have a nice culture, right? I did wear my bright shirt earlier today, but I took it off for this. right? There's 150,000 devs, and Bocky said before, you know, there was a hack earlier, like the DAO hack. That's just part of growing up, right? You get injured as you grow up, and that's part of your history. But the Bybit, when I don't agree with Bocky, that's not Ethereum's fault. That's a front-side problem, right? If the developer is using malicious software in an extension that has nothing to do with him, but it's got to do with the Chrome store, why does Ethereum get the blame, right? I think that's utter rubbish, and if anyone ever brings that up to you, just dismiss Bybit as a front-end attack and tell them to come see me. And the other bit that he also brought up was the ERC standards. Solana has a lot that they need to be thankful for, because the ERC standards on Solana and Metaplex are based on the ERC standards, okay? And these also come from the Web2 world, right? If we want to live in a world that's all digital, which we are, moving to RWA and DeFi, we need to get along with Web2 and Web3, and it just has to be the interwebs, right? The internet is basically the international network of everyone connected to do anything, anywhere, at the cheapest and the fastest price possible.
Okay.
Okay.
I will be fast. Okay.
How long do I have?
Try to be diligent 90 seconds.
Okay. Well, I kind of said it before, right? I said that I actually think from a technical point of view, Solana is fine. Like, it's not junk, it's not garbage, it does a lot of things really well. It is fast, it is cheap, right? It does these things well, we all know. I'm sure a lot of us have used Solana. It's okay, guys, you can admit it if we use Solana. But like, I think when you look at kind of, you know, as he was alluding to what Ethereum's gone through and the experience and what it survived, so Solana has too. You mentioned the FTX thing. That was actually pretty impressive. Like, I remember at the time thinking, I thought to myself, I'm like, this is probably going to kill Solana. Like, I actually thought that. And obviously I think that because of my ETH bias, but I also thought that because it was just such a huge deal at the time, right? Like, for those of you who maybe weren't around back then, you probably won't understand, but for those who were, they definitely understand how big of a deal that was. The chain was basically the SBF chain. It was known as that because he had his hands in everything on that chain. And when he went, the chain went with it, and we all know what happened to the Sol price back then and everything, and everyone wrote Solana off as dead. But they came back from that. They were able to grow an ecosystem out of that, and for that, like, I'm incredibly impressed by that, for sure. And they have been able to handle a lot of demand through things like the meme coin stuff, especially when Trump launched his meme coin. The chain did what it's supposed to do. The chain did what it advertised it was supposed to do. So yeah, huge kudos to Solana for that and for handling that. Like, yes, Ethereum couldn't handle that. Even the layer 2s, I would say, probably couldn't have handled that. Not as well, at least. The fees would have spiked more than they did on Solana. I think they did spike, but nowhere near what would have happened on the L2s there. So I will say that I am, impressed by the technical kind of architecture of what Solana has built and what they continue to build there. And that's my nice thing that I'll say about Solana.
Thank you.
Okay. So to start wrapping up here, because it can definitely go on for some time. So to start wrapping up, I want to point to some of the key cultural differences and address a couple of questions for each of you. The way, in my view, it's laid out is that if Bitcoin originally opened the floodgates of what today is crypto, Bitcoin was very primitive in its essence, was very libertarian in the principles and culture around it and all that. And Ethereum, in some respects, was a very natural expansion of that. It was actually still very much adhering to the roots, cypherpunk, and libertarian culture, and this for the at least for the few years until DeFi summer, that the TradFi suits people came to start extractive gameplay. Until that point, it still felt very much like a close-knit community that is very libertarian-ish. And nevertheless, Ethereum was already a step out of the purism that Bitcoin has. Solana took this several notches up, which basically is, I spoke to so many developers over the years, particularly since the last cycle, that their first exposure to crypto was Solana. And when this was the first exposure, there was not so much any appetite or interest in how does money work, what is immutability. It was only just like, how do we, like Casino 365, that was the culture I encountered. So to me, it was somewhat repulsive, personally. But again, as I mentioned earlier, I do believe that there is earned legitimacy by virtue of being able to survive and keep active ecosystem. So that's the insights that I think culturally lead to see that in Ethereum there's a lot more close to purity or principle driven, and in Solana it's operating a lot more like Silicon Valley startups, like growth at all costs kind of. And then there's pros and cons to each, naturally, right? You cannot be intellectually dishonest to say that there is it, right? So what I want to address for each of you guys is maybe like share a word about what are the pros and cons or the things that you would want to see in the ecosystem that you represent as things that are potentially positive inspiration from the other ecosystem. So, any takers? First one.
Do we go first, or?
Oh, I don't have an answer yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I can have an answer. Yeah. I mean, I do want to comment on what you said. I think you summarized it perfectly. I think that just on a personal note, what attracts me and keeps me in Ethereum is not just because it was the first thing I discovered, because it wasn't. I discovered Bitcoin first, and I didn't become an ETH maxi until 2021. I think I was like open to a lot of other things before then. But what's really kept me in it is the fact that it's very close to Bitcoin, the culture, in terms of like respecting the things that you mentioned, right? Like especially the ability to run your own node, all those sorts of things. But it takes it up a notch, and it lets you do much more than just have money on there, which is what Bitcoin does. And that's what kind of has kept me there. So it's very simple, but you know, once you add that, what Ethereum added with smart contracts, you get that kind of explosion there. But on the cultural side as well, I know, you know, he hates me bringing up layer 2s, but I bring up layer 2s not just from a technical side, but also a cultural side. Because what that allows us to do is bring in some of Solana culture into Ethereum. Because with layer 2s, they can act like the Solana acts. Like, let's move fast, let's keep doing, you know, let's make a really fast chain, let's do the Silicon Valley spirit, growth at all costs. And that has no negative or I mean positive. I mean, it can have a negative effect, can have a positive effect, but it's not a direct kind of effect on what Ethereum layer 1 is trying to be. So it's not like coming in and imprinting its cultural kind of values on Ethereum layer 1. Ethereum layer 1 has its own cultural set, and layer 2s have their own cultures. And you can already see this playing out. Base has a very similar culture to Solana, I would argue, in terms of the degen activities happening there, the meme coin stuff. You know, Jesse is pushing coining things on Zora and stuff like that. That's a lot of the activity, the social side, the consumer side, that you see that Solana is optimized for. Payments as well as a big one too. Whereas Arbitrum 1, maybe it's more of the serious DeFi kind of L2. They're optimizing for that, and they're letting others use their technology, like Robinhood, for example, to build on top of it, build the more institutional kind of great stuff. But then you have all these other ones like Mega ETH and Rise and a few others out there who are building these like super fast chains that are trying to compete with Solana and Hyperliquid and these other really fast like layer 1s. So that's why I just really love the kind of layer 1, layer 2 architecture, because not only is it technically superior in my view, it also lets you have an explosion of cultures. And I think that the healthiest countries in the world have good you know, cultural diversity. You don't want to have too much, you don't want to have too little, you want to have like a good balance. And I think Ethereum strikes that balance. But to bring in, you know, from Solana all the good things from Solana, we can do that via the layer 2s. We don't have to compromise on our core values in order to get the best of other ecosystems.
I think you really addressed it well, the rationale of equating Ethereum to the country is very interesting, because I actually look at it as a network state or anything, right? And for a country to preserve its cultural integrity, it's nice to have diversity, but you also don't want to introduce too much influx that would disrupt the social fabric, right? And I'm saying it as an immigrant in Australia, so it's like there's a way of managing it, and yeah, it's actually, I agree with your statement. Yeah, over to you, Hassan.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand the question properly, but I'll try to address it the way I understand, because I know Solana and I don't know much else. And if you might have not guessed yet, right? So what I like about Solana is the fact that the founders, the developers, the culture is permissionless. It truly is. and it's transparent, and it's decentralized. And because I know what I know, I travel the world. I've been to so many countries this year that my wife hates me, right? And I see the way that people and the culture works. I walk into a room and I see Solana people by talking to them, not because they have a bag, not because they're building something, it's just a mindset, right? And some people come and talk to me about price, and I don't think I've talked about price tonight, and I don't want to, and that's not who I am, right? So the Solana culture is what I really like. So for example, there is something called Super Team, right? They look after all the events all around the world, right? It's fully decentralized, there's some money, they can do whatever they want. And I asked them, can we do a Super Team in Australia? They're like, prove that you can do stuff here. And me and Adrian, who's out there, we do stuff around Australia and New Zealand, and we can do stuff if we want to, and no one can stop us, right? Same thing happens with the hackathons, right? I think the last hackathon just had 7,000 competitors. 7 of them placed from Australia. It's fully decentralized. Coliseum.com, you just go there, you submit from anywhere in the world, and you can just compete and win $250,000, and it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, and no one's telling them to do it. The team that's behind it, they're just decentralized. They just do whatever they want, whenever they want. The next hackathon's in September, and it's going to be about, I think, Charlie Munger, value creation, right? It's just a meme, and it turns into something. It's not planned, it's just happens.
Just a word on what aspect of Ethereum culture would you think would be inspiring for Solana? That was the original question.
I don't
Can
have...
I give you a prompt?
Yeah.
You said that Solana is becoming more decentralized over time. Do you think that means it should be looking more like Ethereum Layer 1 over time, since Ethereum Layer 1 has become more decentralized over time, as you were saying earlier in some of your statements?
I think that just happens naturally. It's organic.
Okay.
Right? So Ethereum cannot plan that. Like, you can't plan that.
You
It's
can
not
design
SEO.
for it. You can design for it.
We need to
You
wrap
know how you
up.
can design for it by making it easy to run a node versus making it hard to run a
You can
node.
spin up a node on Solana or a validator on your laptop. I
A
mean,
fully validating, block producing node.
you can, but you won't earn any money,
That's the what?
right?
Okay,
But,
guys,
like,
let's-
is it about
let's
making
wrap
money,
it.
or is it getting data? If you want the data, you get it.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Actually, there is one important thing. This was a debate, a competition, so there should be a link, I think, right? Not spicy, but...
Have to hang out in Melbourne.
Yeah.
We came from Melbourne.
Yeah, same thing.
Questions?
I don't know if we're doing the Q&A. No, we're not doing the Q&A. We're over time. Yeah,